Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be here. My name's Diederick Santer. I'm a drama producer and commissioner, and I'm very pleased to welcome you to our final session today, which is the Drama Masterclass with director Jordan Hogg.
Thank you.
Jordan's credits include some of the biggest and most watched shows on British television, like Death in Paradise, Coronation Street, and Emmerdale. In 2018, he persuaded a legendary American actress to take part in BBC long-runner Casualty and won a BAFTA for the episode. He directed on Channel 4's Ackley Bridge, winning a BAFTA Breakthrough Award in 2020. And his work on groundbreaking BBC One drama Ralph and Katie won recognition from the RTS, not only for the excellent direction, but also for its commitment to inclusivity and diversity, something Jordan is passionate about. Although I know his work very well, we've only met just now, and I'm intrigued to learn with all of you about Jordan's journey to becoming a successful television director and how he's managed to put together such an interesting and varied career. We'll hopefully be learning what motivates him and what he strives for in his work and what tips and insights he can share with us. I will be turning to you a couple of times over the next hour, so do have a think of any questions, specific, short, and relevant, that you would like to ask. So, Jordan.
Hello.
Let's go back to the beginning. Why did you want to direct television, and how did you make it happen?
Well, there's a specific moment I know when I wanted to become a director. When I was growing up, it was quite difficult at home. I had quite a challenging home life. There was, at the time, my parents were getting divorced, and it was really, really messy. It wasn't good at all. And I can remember sat in front of the telly on a Sunday, and Lawrence of Arabia was on Channel 4. And I completely forgot all this chaos that was happening around me. And I got lost in the desert with Lawrence. And I thought, this is proper magic. If I can take one person out of reality and put them here, that would be a hell of an achievement. But being a disabled kid from a Victorian seaside town and from Scarborough, which is a very moribund place, and it feels very detached from everywhere else, I thought, how can I do it? And I'm that old. This was like pre-internet. So I did what any disabled kid does when they leave school, and I became a fitness instructor. Because I've got the attitude, if you tell me what I can't do, I'll say, well, you sit there and watch what I can't fucking do. And I did that. Then I had like an epiphany, and I thought, why don't I pursue this dream of directing? So I left school with no GCSEs whatsoever. So I went back to night school, I did my GCSEs, went to college, while I had my full-time job. And I studied film at university, again, while I had my job. So I had to do my uni work at work while I was still working in the gym, and people were pulling the wire out my laptop and closing the lid and saying,
Not supportive, no.
No, they were saying, what are you doing this for? You're wasting your time. And I was like, come on, guys, keep giving me it. This is really good motivation. And that was, from there, it kind of spiraled, and it all went my way, luckily.
And so, from studying while working in the gym by day, what was the next step?
I was so lucky. I always say I went to university for one email.
Nice.
And I got an email from a company called Maverick Television, who are a factual production company. And they were doing a show on Channel 4 called The Shooting Party. And they wanted 12 disabled filmmakers to take part in a series, which is a bit like The Apprentice. It was like a knockout thing. It was on a Sunday morning on Channel 4. And I got this email, and to this day, I don't believe in fate or anything, but I got an email from Maverick Productions on an email account I'd set up the day before. So I have no idea how it got there, none whatsoever. So they're looking for contestants for The Shooting Party. So I thought, well, I'll apply. And somehow I blagged my way onto it, and I got to the final. And I didn't win, I finished third. But then I got a call the next week. I went back to university to finish my dissertation, which was on, I did the representation of disability in cinema, and I thought, there'll be loads of stuff I can quote on this will be easy. There was literally nothing, nobody had written anything on it. So I came up with the thesis that every Bond villain has a disability and their disability makes them stronger. And I did that, and I got a call while I was doing this from Channel 4 saying, we loved you on the Shooting Party. We'd like to offer you a job as an apprentice director on Shameless. and we'll pay you a wage and you'll send you to the National Film School 1 week a month for a year. How do you fancy it? And I was in Manchester before my girlfriend had got home from work. So that was kind of my start. And so I always literally say, I had my graduation ceremony and then drove to start work the next day. And working on Shameless gave me a really good insight into how the industry works. I'd never even been on a professional set before.
So those two things, I mean, mainly the shooting party from Maverick, and then those are the breaks. But you recognise the breaks. The fact that you moved so quickly that day to get to Manchester, because I sometimes have that feeling with people where I sort of think, oh, that's the break, spot it. You've got to grab it. If it happens, it might not happen, but if it happens, grab that break. But it sounds like you sort of recognised them there and then. Yeah,
absolutely. And I was very aware with the industry as it is, there's no straight route into it. If you speak to anybody in our industry, we've all come from it from different ways and different backgrounds. So as soon as I got the chance, this was my dream, what I've always wanted to do. So any opportunity that came, I'd go, I'd be there straight away. And I picked up very early on, which is, I now know, is absolutely paramount in our industry, and I advise any of you to do this. I kept a collection of emails and phone numbers of everybody I met and kept in touch with as many people as I can, because now it's really weird, because now I've got to a stage where I'm quite far on in my career and I've done okay. I get messages now from people who were my mentor back in the day asking me things. So we've always stayed connected, and we're like one big, strange, dysfunctional family, really.
So that placement on Shameless sounds incredible.
Yeah.
How did you make the move from that to like actual bookings on? I mean, I think some of your early sort of legit credits were sort of soaps like Doctors and Hollyoaks. How did you do that?
Again, I used when I made the transition, I used my contacts who I'd met on Shameless. And I was literally being ruthless and saying to people, what producers do you know? Who do you know works on so-and-so? Who do you know works on this? And the line producer on Shameless was friends with the producer of Hollyoaks. And at that point, I'd made some of my own short films and stuff, and they'd known I'd had my placement on Shameless. I used that contact to reach out to Hollyoaks and say I'd love to work on Hollyoaks, and they got me in for a meeting, and they were some reason really liked me, and then it kind of went from there. And I started off on Hollyoaks. Then I did the same thing. I tried to work out who was the producer of Doctors and who I knew. Then went down that avenue. Then when Doctors happened, it kind of kept going and going and going. And it still happens to this day. I still reach out to people who do shows that I want to do and want to work on. I find ways to connect to them.
So you're not just waiting for the phone to ring or the email to pop up magically?
No, I think that's the danger people make. And I think a lot of people make the assumption that when you've got an agent, your agent will do the work for you. But that's not how it generally works. You have to kind of open the doors to begin with. Then the agent will deal with the practical elements of it, but I think you've got to try and get yourself out there, get your image out there, get your show reel out there to try and be where you want to be, really.
Great. So give me a bit of a whistle stop through your career, because we've only got 60 golden minutes, but we're going to look at some clips, and the first clip we're going to see is from the BBC's enduring medical drama Casualty.
Yep.
Do you want to sort of set up the clip, Jordan? Tell us who's in it and what's going on?
Absolutely. Well, I'll start off by saying that when I was doing soaps and things, it was like a golden thing for me to try and do an hour-long show, because there's all sorts of barriers that are there when you're making your step up, and doing a continuing drama, stepping up to the hour thing, was kind of a big deal at the time, because the first thing they'll always ask you, well, you haven't done an hour thing before. So that was kind of a big step for me, try and get an hour-long drama. But the scene I'm going to show you now is the first episode of Casualty I did. And I got a really strong script. And there's a character in it called Jar Jar, who was a part that any actor in their late 60s would have killed to have played. And I knew straight away who we should get. 100%. But then I thought, no, we're never going to get it. And casting, no utter disrespect whatsoever, but they were sending me people who were regularly in Doctors, regularly in other daytime soaps, and soaps in general. And I was kind of thinking, no, we can do better than this. So I told them who I want. I said, I want Sharon Gless, who probably none of you guys have heard of, but she was in a massive police show in the 80s called Cagney and Lacey, which was enormous.
It was a bigger show. It was a bigger show at the time.
Yeah, it was like I would say equivalent to The Wire, but maybe not.
But people watched it.
Yeah. Exactly. And the casting director said, that's not going to happen. She's not going to do it. And I said, again, that was someone saying no to me. So I was like, well, hang on then, you sit there then and watch what happens. So I phoned up her agent and said, look, this is really stupid. Would Sharon at least read this and tell me what she thinks? Anyway, cut a long story short, Sharon loved it and wanted to do it. But then I didn't think that was enough. With the been special episode of Casualty, I wanted to make it even special. So you'll probably notice when you see it now that it doesn't really look like Casualty. So
sweet. Yeah, let's play the clip. Yeah.
This speech therapist came highly recommended. Keep me posted, will you? If something pops up, like a picture of Glenn and his daughter, I'd be miffed if you didn't send me a copy.
Yeah, understood.
Dee Dee, the tumor is at bay.
He's got to learn to walk and talk and use his right arm. Yeah, I know.
I used to think you were such an alien. Totally incapable of human interaction. And then you and I got drunk one night and you told me these horror stories about you and your crazy family. And it all made sense.
Every word of it true.
Well, I think you've come to love the Earthlings.
You overstated a fraction. Okay.
You know what I think this is about? You reunited a father and his child.
Neurosurgeon, psychiatrist, what can I say? You must be a genius.
I am. And I fly. Goodbye, Dee Dee.
You know, I'm sorry that I didn't keep in contact. I think you must be the reason that I survived medical school. You're a fabulous surgeon. I am honoured to know you.
Good luck to us all.
Yeah. Good luck.
Don't touch that. You couldn't lift an eyelid.
So you've got two. You've got two legends there. You've got Sharon Gless as Sergeant Christine Cagney, and you've got William Beck, casualty legend, as Dr. Dylan Keogh. What's the context of that scene? He was like a student of hers years ago.
Yeah, basically the story is his friend had a serious brain tumour and he was going to die before his child was going to be born. So he had he was doing everything he could to make Glenn live long enough to see his child. But there was no other option, so he called upon his old mentor if there's anything she could do. And luckily the character of Jar Jar came over, was able to perform surgery, but it left him with a little bit of a disability. But it worked, and he might see his daughter and live for a few months. Whereas it was an operation that probably wasn't worth doing because he was going to die anyway. Mm-hmm. But that was the story. But there's two things that was fortunate. It was bloody fortunate we got Sharon Gless, because the second name on my list was Whoopi Goldberg, and she doesn't fly.
Well, you guys could have flown.
Exactly. And the point of that clip is why I wanted to show you guys this clip is, every job I do, I don't feel like I'm good enough to be in this industry, and I have to give my all to the project I'm doing. And that shows that was literally a bog standard. It was my first Casualty, so it was a bog standard episode. There was nothing special about it until I pushed as far as I could to try and make it something on the page that wasn't generally there.
And how does that go down? Because sometimes a director comes in for a couple of weeks. On lots of these shows, whether it's the soaps or something like Casualty. I mean, William Beck's been there for years. You've worked on Coronation Street. Bill Roach has been there since 1960, right? So you're just there for a few days, and you're sitting in the director's chair. You're the expert. How do you get them to trust you? And conversely, how do you get the best out of them?
What I do is, regardless of what show I'm on, this is how much of a film geek I am and how much I love my job. I will research whoever I'm meeting or working with and find some form of context to speak to them with. I look at what shows they've worked on previously. Maybe I'll try and find out on Wikipedia or something what they're into, to try and drum up that conversation. But I'll always address the actors and other crew before I start and get on the floor. I'll always try and bump into them in the canteen or whatever and try and get a shorthand and rapport and try and explain that this is something I'm trying to do and I really believe we can do something unique and special.
And how does that go down? Because sometimes, it can go one of two ways, can't it? When you say to a regular crew or a regular cast, I want to try this thing, because they might go, yeah, we don't really do it like that.
Yeah. I mean, I can think of one time in particular it went down like a bag of cold sick.
Would you tell us about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I went up to an actor and I said to them, "Hello, I'm Jordan, I'm directing today. Really pleased to meet you. I hear you did your training at David Johnson." And said, "Yeah, it's show business, not show friends." And kind of walked off. So,
okay.
Again, that's another instance of, right, fine, you're being like that with me. Let's show you what you're missing out on.
Yeah. And also, I suppose I didn't come here to make this. Some people don't like that, to turn up and do it and go. People are different, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. But again, I've got this, I don't want to say it's imposter syndrome, but whatever I'm on, I feel like it's the last show I'll be directing, so I've got to give it more than what's on the page.
And how did you, I don't know the budgets on Casualty, but I know it's not the most lavishly funded show. Did they break their pay scale for Sharon Gless? Did she do it for the regular tariff, and how did it work?
No, that was another hurdle we had to jump over. Because the BBC is a publicly funded organisation. Her fee was some 3 or 4 times the regular guest artist fee. So then it had to go upstairs at the BBC and that had to be consulted on whether it was a justification of the licence fee, which I'd assume they worked out that it was. But I had a lot of backing from the line producer, and she said to me, "If you can get Sharon Gless interested, I will do everything I can to make it happen." She probably could see the ambition of what I was trying to do, but apart from the pay, there was a few other things. She wanted a contact lens technician.
Okay.
Whatever a contact lens technician is. None of us knew at the time. And she wanted, this is the deal breaker, she wanted to stay in a castle.
She used to stay in a castle?
Yeah.
Well, there's castles near Cardiff, right?
Well, it's Cardiff Castle, but I don't think it's very accommodating. But luckily, Beyonce was performing in Cardiff.
You got Beyonce in Casualty?
Yeah.
Wow, this guy.
Beyonce was at the arena, or the stadium in Cardiff. At the same time, Sharon was there. So we managed to sell it to her by putting her on the same floor as Beyonce in the same hotel.
Wow, that's good. But what I like about this story is that production manager didn't go, "Oh, Jordan, you're being annoying now." Okay. She kind of went, "Okay, well, let's see a contact lens technician, you say."
Yeah.
A castle, they went with it.
Yeah, and there was all things like that. And I think she could see that it could be something more than what it was. And she really went with it, and they did go all out to accommodate. And Sharon's been back since and done. Yeah. I think she's done 2 more episodes since.
Yeah. That's interesting, isn't it? Because sometimes I think we can stereotype those continuing shows as sausage factories, a bit always the same. But I think from my experience of working on those shows and watching those shows, the people who work on them want them to be exceptional within their own constraints. They want them to be different. They want them to be as good as they can possibly be and attract the best talent.
Absolutely.
They aspire for them, within the financial and time constraints.
Yeah, and I always say that 90% of my job is man management and managing the crew. And I think you get the best out of them if you show them they can use their skills more than they're used to doing on a daily basis with everybody. And everybody kind of comes together and works towards a better thing, really.
Great.
I think.
Teamwork makes the dream work, absolutely. So let's turn to the Channel 4 school drama, Ackley Bridge.
Yes.
I'm keen to know how you got your break on it. Am I right in thinking you've been keen to get on it from the beginning, but for some reason it didn't work out, and it was a sort of a later series, a quirk of fate?
Well, this is kind of my kind of not giving up attitude kind of really paid off in the sense that I went for a meeting for season 1 of Ackley. And I knew I'd not done drama, so to speak. I'd come from continuing drama, I'd done quite a bit of it, but I'd never done a drama. So I was up against, I've forgotten his name, there was a really experienced director who'd done Sherlock and Downton. So I was like, well, I'm going to pick him over me anyway. But I created all these mood boards and things and whatnot, and what I wanted to do, how I felt the show should be. Went really well anyway. I didn't get the show. So I went back to doing what I was doing. I think I was doing Casualty or Emmerdale or Corrie at the time. And a couple of years went past and I'd completely forgotten about it. And I got a call at 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon from my agent saying, Ackley Bridge have been on the phone. They want to offer you the finale of season 3. I was like, oh, Nick, that's brilliant, but I'm due to start Coronation Street on Monday. And he said, no, I've told them you're doing Ackley Bridge. Forget Corrie. So I was like, well, I don't want to burn my bridge. He said, look, you're doing Ackley Bridge, which was amazing, which I really wanted to do. And I'd fortunate enough that I'd got this episode of Ackley, which was the finale of the series. It was a really big number. And I put it purely down to the tenacity. I put everything I got into my first meeting, kind of paid off years later when I didn't have to meet for it again. They just remembered me and offered it to me when the director of it had pulled out. And we've got a clip to show you, which is an example. There's not much dialogue in it, but it shows the effect of what we do as directors and how much impact we can have on it. And what I'd set myself a goal when I started on this, I'd said to my wife that I'm going to make them wish they had me on season 1. And when I got to the edit, the producer said to me, I should have had you on season 1, shouldn't I?
Oh, revenge is sweet. Revenge is
like,
sweet.
yes,
Yeah, no
you
round of
should
applause. Before we play it, and it's a very strong clip, and it's interesting what you do with lots of things, including the sun. Just give us the kind of character and story context, just to orientate us a little bit.
Yeah, what had happened is that probably the lead character in the first 3 seasons is a character called Missy, and she died earlier in the series, and Naz was leaving Ackley Bridge, and she'd got a place at Oxford University, and it's basically the scene you're going to see is basically Naz saying goodbye to her friend by scattering her ashes over the moors. But the trick with it again is trying to make more of what's on the page than there is in reality. So the scene you're about to see, we had to build the whole schedule of 2 episodes around where the sun was going to be on this day.
Great. Well, let's see the clip.
Flows and flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air and feather canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way, but now they only block the sun. They rain and snow on everyone. So many and still somehow it's cloud solutions I recall. I really don't know clouds at all.
We can go now, Missy. Just like you said. Same time, same place, same day.
Moons and Junes and Ferris wheels, the dizzy dancing way you feel when every fairy tale comes true. I've looked at love that way, but now it's just another show. You leave him laughing when you go, and if you
It's a very touching scene, and the sun absolutely played its part. Did you have a perfect weather? Did you have like wet weather cover, or were you just lucky on the day?
We threw everything at it and hoping it would be fine, which luckily it was. We had to get a crane up there, it was about a mile from the nearest road, so trying to get everything there to this location I wanted was a job in itself. I mean, it took us about 3 hours. We wanted everything rigged and perfectly and wait for the sun, so it was kind of doing them backwards, really.
But what would, if it had been pouring down with rain, what would you have done?
It probably worked quite nicely in the rain, I think. That was my other argument, but it wouldn't have been spectacular. It'd have been nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just said as the cue was starting, as the clip was starting, about what's going on with Joni Mitchell, right?
Kind of. We'd found this that track, which is really cool, and we thought it worked perfectly, but that track is a girl in a bedroom in the Philippines playing the song on a guitar on her own. And we really loved that version, we really wanted it, but we didn't know who this person was who was playing this tune. So I found her on Instagram, and I DM'd her on Instagram, said, we'd really like to use this for a TV show. She's like, oh, great, this is amazing. And they sorted out all the legal and the payment thing, she didn't want any money for it and whatnot. But then we needed Joni Mitchell's permission, which was like, was it 10,000 she wanted for that one clip? So there was a lot of hoops to jump through to get a track.
And once again, you managed to persuade your colleagues that they should...
Yeah, because we tried a plethora of other tracks, and we said, no, it has to be this. This is the one. And it managed to work out quite well.
Certainly did. And just on that scene, so... I mean, I think what you're doing there is you're taking us, using music, using the sort of shot composition. You talked about how there was something on the page, but you kind of grew it. You're taking us into the characters' heads, aren't you? You're making us feel what they feel, think what they think. Any other sort of techniques or tricks, if you like, that we should be looking out for in that clip?
Well, that's what the strength of a good director or me is supposed to do. We don't show you things, make you feel things. And that's what I've always tried to do. I did another show called Screw as well. I haven't got any... No, I haven't got...
Prison series on Channel 4, yeah.
I haven't got any clips of Screw. But again, we had another sequence very similar to this, where I was using the geography and the mise-en-scène to show us how we should feel like literally with walls closing in on people and that kind of thing by using different camera moves. But again, we wanted the sense there we're flying off to kind of pastures new, really, and that was well thought out ahead. And even when you do, like the scene earlier on, the quite straightforward two-hander, the camera techniques you use and how you shoot things is much more than a shot. It's conveying what you want the audience to feel.
So that's what it's about. So it's interesting because different directors have got sort of different guiding principles. Like some might say, well, show, don't tell. Some might say, my job is to take you into the characters' heads. Someone might say, I just get out of the way between the action and the audience. Someone else might say, I don't know, I make the script sing. Do you have a particular mantra, or is it more kind of organic and instinctive?
I plan really well. I was trained by a really old school director called Lawrence Moody, who taught me that if I go under a bus on my way to work, they'll just pick my iPad up and carry on.
Okay.
But again, that morphs into something else. That gives you a good plan if you have a whiteout. But on the floor, when you're going through things, when you're blocking things, when you see what the actors are bringing to it. I was saying to someone the other day when they said, why do you direct? And I'm constantly hunting for that feeling you get. It doesn't happen very often. But all the scenes you've got today are the scenes that gave me the feeling in here that I've got something right and I'm there with the character and I can feel everything. And that's what you've got to try and do. You've got to try, when you're blocking the scene, you've got to be with the actors and with the characters. Then I think afterwards, how can I use the shots to get the best of that? But I've got to feel it on the floor first.
Got to feel it. So it's heart before head.
100%.
That's interesting.
Absolutely. But I've got the head plan, if you like, there already on the paper.
Yeah.
But I can easily change that into what needs to be done.
Right, so you're prepped, you know what you want to do, but actually something might happen, a performance, a thing, the sun, who knows, and where is this taking me emotionally?
Exactly. You've got the thing is, you're not directing for fancy shots or a show, really. You're directing to capture a performance. And you've got to try and get the best way to do that, whether it's changing your plans or not.
You're not directing for the show, really.
Exactly.
I've got a question about that decision you made when you bailed on Corrie for Ackley Bridge.
Yes.
I mean, sounds like your agent, thanks, made that decision for you. But were you worried that you'd get blacklisted?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Because at the time, the continuing dramas were my meat and drink, they were bread and butter. That was what I was using regularly. But I don't think you become a director to stay in one place. You want to keep evolving, and I always say, even if you fall over, you fall forward. And that's kind of what I did with Ackley Bridge, and I've got dreams and ambitions of doing things, and I knew I wouldn't fulfil them ambitions by doing what I wanted to do. It was kind of a calculated risk. I knew I'd built up enough of a reputation with the continuing dramas that they knew they could rely on me. But I knew I was good enough, and I had a good rapport there, and I knew over time I could probably get back there if I needed to.
And did you? I mean, did Corrie ever forgive you?
Yes.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
So I'm building up a picture. So you're studying by night, you're working by day. Mm-hmm. You roped in Sergeant Christine Cagney. Yeah. You snubbed the oldest soap on British television. You persuaded the production to give 10 grand to Joni Mitchell. You found a girl in a bedroom in the Philippines. Mm-hmm. I'm sort of noting a pattern of extreme...
in a way.
That's terrifying. I'm noting a pattern of extreme determination. I'd like to talk a bit more about where that comes from. I mean, you talked about the guys in the gym unplugging your laptop, but I mean, you said right at the beginning, Lawrence of Arabia. Where does that sort of determination and that kind of cussed attitude? Where does your attitude come from, George?
Well, growing up, I mean, my dad was a very good amateur athlete, and he wasn't professional man standard, but he used to play all sports, and he used to be a bodybuilder and strongman and stuff. And he was kind of my inspiration growing up. I think most young lads are. Their dad is their idol, essentially. And I always wanted to do what he did, but I obviously knew deep down I couldn't. And when I'd go places, even at school, I'd play in rugby matches and football matches at school. My mum and dad both never cut me any slack. And my disability was never recognised as a thing. I would just get on with it, stop mourning. You're no different from anybody else. People worse off than you. You can do it. And I've always had that attitude drummed into me since I was a kid. Now, I think part of the way I perceive it doesn't happen regularly, but I perceive the way people probably look at me as a disabled man. And a big part of me wants to prove them wrong. Because 99% of the time, I don't feel I'm disabled at all. I think I'm Superman. I think the biggest disability I have is that I'm an arsehole, more than anything. So I think it comes from my not being cut any slack as a kid and wanting to match up to people who told me I couldn't and wanting to compete with other kids at sports and things. There's a famous story around when I was a kid and there was a race at school. I'd never won a race in my life, obviously. And one of the kids during the race had an epileptic fit. So everybody stopped running. That's the first race I've ever won in my life.
You've got to recognise a break when it comes your way, haven't you?
100%. So I think that's where it comes from. And again, I feel like there's this disabled kid from this seaside town in North Yorkshire would be here talking to you guys today about this amazing time I've had doing what I love. I never thought that'd be possible for me. And I think that's kind of where it comes from, me wanting to prove a point and prove to myself, if anything, that I can hang with the best. I can do it. So that's it, I think.
Well, you can. But does your disability, do you think, I mean, it's given you a drive and it's, it's given you a cussed attitude that I admire and I'm slightly intimidated by. But does it give you a different insight? Do you think that as a director, because of your experience in the world of being a disabled person, do you think is that a superpower as a director?
Yeah, 100%. I think that the strength of a director is being able to perceive world differently to how everyone else perceives it and understanding people's emotions and feelings. And I think the wide range of emotions I get shown by various people, whether it's feeling sorry for me or they're quite proud of me, what I've achieved. I think I'm more open to that, and I'm more conscious of it. And I was talking earlier today about rejection and how people deal with that. That's something that's never bothered me, because I've kind of been turned down for things all my life, even because I did stupid stuff like, it's not stupid, but I enrolled for the football team and the rugby team stuff without having the conscious decision that I couldn't do it. And obviously I got rejected for that, but it didn't matter. And that's why I've kept, even though I get turned down for jobs today, it doesn't matter, because I've had the opportunity to talk about what I love and practice my skills and show what I like to do. So I would say it's a plus, really.
Well, I would say that being good at taking rejection is an excellent attribute for working in this.
100%.
Working in this industry.
Absolutely.
Do we have any questions from the audience at this point?
I'll just say I have no filter whatsoever. I'll answer anything. Hello.
Okay, well, a hand shot, a checked shirt there, a hand shot up. There's a mic coming back.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Jordan. Diederick. I just want to caveat what I'm about to ask. It's shamelessly trying to sort of introduce myself. So I'm Aaron Mackenzie. I'm an ex-Royal Marine turned actor. So you guys are, sort of the people I want to speak to. My question is primarily around directing and how you get your vision across to both, like, say, the lighting, the actors, the sound, and then how much do you then rely on their ability to create that image that you want, really?
Excellent question. Thank you for your service in the Marines, by the way. I plan everything ridiculously, to the point where I'll sit down with the DOP before and I'll have reference photos of what I want to try and achieve for the scenes we're shooting. And we'll talk about cameras and techniques we'll need. But I like to get everyone around together and express what I want to do. And that kind of question kind of leads nicely onto Ralph and Katie. Because with the show being as unique as it was, we didn't take people from their CVs alone. We sat down and spoke to a lot of people from every department. We literally handpicked everybody. But we chose them for their personality and the person they were, because we knew we'd have to change the mould on how TV was done. We'd have to do things completely differently and work in a way that not everybody could work.
Hold on one second. What's Ralph and Katie?
What's Ralph and Katie? Ralph and Katie was a show we did, which is the first show ever made to have two learning disabled lead actors. It was a spin-off of The A Word. It's quite an interesting story how I got that as well. I went for a meeting for The A Word. Didn't get it. There's a pattern involving here. But then a few months later, I saw on Twitter, of all places, that BBC had greenlit a show called Ralph and Katie, which was about the two characters in The A Word had Down syndrome and they were married and living together. So I immediately emailed my agent, this was again last thing on a Friday, said, can you get me anywhere near it? I'll love you forever. He phoned me up at 9 o'clock on the Monday morning, said, ITV Studios have been on the phone. There's a show called Ralph and Katie. Peter Bowker has written the show and he's written it for you to direct. Would you be interested? I said, well, I emailed you on Friday. He was like, did you? I was like, yeah, but Peter Bowker had remembered me from my interview on The A Word.
Peter being the writer of The A Word.
He was the creator of The A Word and World on Fire, who'd done Ralph and Katie, so, yeah.
Well, you've cued us in. Thank you for your questions. You've cued us into the next one. We'll come back and do some more questions in a minute. But since we're on Ralph and Katie, let's play the clip first, and then we can talk a little bit more about it. So this clip is another bit of visual storytelling. Ralph is in town. What's going on in this clip?
What has happened is Ralph has found a lump, and he's gone to the doctors to find out the results of his test, if he's got cancer or not. Where the testicular cancer he'd been tested for was the rates of testicular cancer are quite high in people with Down syndrome, so it was quite relevant to our story. So this is Ralph leaving the doctor's surgery, and also another thing on this, I composed this track as well. I am completely and utterly musically inept. I know nothing about music, can't sing, can't play any instruments or anything. But I went to the composer's studio and he played the track, he played the clip, and he said, just play with anything what conveys the emotions that Ralph is feeling in this scene. So I went around bashing things, blowing horns and stuff, and we put it all together into this track.
Let's play the clip.
What are you doing? That's a bit uncalled for.
Fuck off!
I kicked the phone.
Good.
I told Bo to fuck off.
Okay.
I have a cock cancer.
That's good. That's very good.
I was scared.
I know.
Interestingly, during that scene, I also had COVID. And Leon and Sarah were obviously more susceptible to getting COVID. So I directed that second half of the scene from a car on the driveway with a monitor in the car with me.
Wow. Wow, just to sort of add to the complication.
Yeah, because Leon and Sarah were in such a rhythm. I was determined we weren't going to stop, we were going to keep going. So I was dying in the car. Felt awful, but we had to keep going. I had to direct from a car for 5 days.
Wow. Okay. So it's a unique show in terms of, you said the first, two disabled leads. Yeah. I understand that also, that it was innovative and different in terms of the sort of, who was making the show as well. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, I think because it was we tried to be the most inclusive cast and crew ever assembled, essentially. And we were the first show to have access coordinators, which now thankfully has become a kind of industry-wide thing. And we wanted to kind of open the door to more disabled talent to be as inclusive as possible. We had a wide variety. We had trans people, we had disabled people, we had people of colour. And this was kind of everyone's show. And when we started, I gave this really rubbish rah-rah speech saying, this isn't Peter Bowker's show, this isn't my show, this isn't Leon's show, this isn't Sarah's show, it's our show. And all of you, your opinion matters to us all. Whether you've got an idea or what you think should happen, say it, tell us. This is a show for everybody and unique. I think the days of the author, writer and director are probably waning away now, and I've always said this is a team sport, what we're involved in. So it was the most inclusive, happy environment I've ever worked in. And because we didn't do anything conventionally that had been done before, there was no clapperboard, there was no bell, no red light. We'd literally start talking about the scene, then just go into it. And the first AD would walk in front of the camera like that, and no one could see. Then we start turning, start shooting it. And the access coordinator would be in there, she'd be giving lines to the guys, and they'd be performing with her. But sometimes that didn't work. We had to go kind of nuclear. Whereas sometimes I had to go in and perform as part of the scene. And for some reason, Leon and Sarah would go with that a lot of the time. But trying to direct while on set, while performing in the scene, was quite tricky.
What, you'd be one of them, or you'd be...
Yeah, essentially, yeah. I'd be leading them on to their next line, essentially.
So showing, not telling.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a hell of a challenge to try and do that, but it worked. And every so often we wanted to do it the last episode, but they didn't let us do it. Energy levels would dip probably mid-morning and mid-afternoon, so we'd blast some music and all the crew would run in. Everybody, sparks, hair, makeup, everybody would run in. We'd all start dancing, do a boogie for about 2 minutes. Then everybody just run out. Then we'd just do the scene. And the energy would be picked back up again for Leon and Sarah.
It's like, it's like...
We'd shot all that and we wanted to play it over the credits of the last episode, which would have been really nice, but then we realised nobody cares. Nobody would realise who we are.
Yeah, who are those people?
Yeah.
What's with the clapperboard? No clapperboard?
Because as soon as that happens, people know work.
No, we're acting now.
Yeah, they become something else.
Yeah, okay.
So the trick of the show was trying to capture who Leon is and who Sarah is, because their personality are magic. So again, it's trying to capture a performance. We did this in very unique, different ways to try and get that, because we knew we'd be on a winner if we could get that.
Yeah, it's a lot, and it's getting out the way as well, isn't it? It's trying to make it real.
And there's a really funny. I should have sent the clip actually, but Peter Bowker's got the clip. When we're inside the house, just before Leon storms out and tells Brian to fuck off, Leon was stood there, and I literally went to him, "Fuck off!" And he turned and walked out the door to do the scene. But it looks like I'm telling Leon to fuck off.
Dear, oh dear. And then he told Craig Crash, I can't even say his name, Craig Cash, to fuck off very nicely. Yeah. It's interesting because you're very ambitious for your work, and what we've seen is the sort of progression from one job to the other, from the soaps to the hour-longs. Mm-hmm. So that growth is obviously important to you, but also, we have to keep working, don't we? We've got bills to pay, and there's not many of us that can afford to wait around for that perfect job, which precisely fits our desired career trajectory. Yeah. So how do you balance that desire to do the best, most exciting work, which moves you forward, but also to keep working and ensure you get a regular income? Well,
I'm lucky enough that... I shouldn't say this, but I'd work for free. I have people to make sure that I don't. I love what I do. I'd literally direct anything. I mean, obviously, this has been a quiet year up to now. It's the earlier part of the year was especially quiet. My American agent was saying to me they've lost 300 shows in the US. So this year I went back to doing continuing drama after I hadn't done it for like 5 years. But it's something I love doing. I direct traffic. So yeah, again, but I've still got to I bring that pride of it to me that I'm a director. I shouldn't be doing this. I still want it to be the best it can be, regardless of what I'm doing. But sometimes you have to, and you still learn things. You still develop as a director, regardless of what level show you're doing. It's kind of what I said earlier. We all fall over at times, but the trick is to fall forward and keep going that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So back doing a stint on Corrie this year.
Yeah. I just literally finished yesterday.
Well, I think it's a tough year. It's a tough industry. It's sort of recalibrating, and you're not the only director or anyone having a quiet year.
I mean, I've been lucky enough to write. I'm moving on to Brassic next.
Oh, great.
Quite cool.
So before we do the final clip and the fire, any more questions just at this point? This person here in the leather jacket, your hand came up before, I think.
Hey, so you mentioned earlier about sort of feeling like sometimes your work isn't good enough, or you don't feel like that good in your work or whatever. And I feel like that could be a big thing for people starting out in the industry, like that sort of imposter syndrome. So I was just wondering, like, how do you sort of combat that? How do you overcome it?
Yeah, good question. I don't generally think it's my work as such, but it's me as a person. I don't think I deserve to be kind of sat here talking to you guys today. I'm like, what have I got to talk about? This it's interesting almost. But to combat that, again, I do things like pushing the boundaries of what's possible and making the show more, almost giving the producer and the execs the reason to employ me again, and almost, well, it's my job on the show to make sure that the producers happy and the execs are happy and their life's as easy as possible by making it something more. That's how I kind of combat it, is trying to be the best it can be and more, really.
Thank you. Let's take another question. Gentleman here in the stripes.
Hi. I had a question rolled into two ideas. So basically, name's Daniel, starting my own short film / pilot, which I'm directing next year. And like, I had a vision for it. And ultimately, when you're directing, it was my first time directing, so hopefully it goes well, hopefully. When you're directing, you have like a vision for something when it's your own idea. But like, let's say you're doing like a CDS or somebody else's idea, like how do you come up with a vision for it?
Very good question. I think as a director, we're hired for our vision, essentially. And I think you find the most successful directors are very good at one thing. They don't scattergun, they don't do slapstick comedy and heavy drama, they stick at one thing. And I think when you do something like, I showed you a Casualty there before, which doesn't look anything like a conventional Casualty episode, but I strongly believed in it could be more. And that's why I did this. And I think somebody said recently when I do a Corrie, they said, Jesus, that was good, it doesn't look like Corrie. But I'd still stuck to the Corrie style, but I'd found angles that hadn't been shown before. I shot people from a slightly lower angle at times, and I got the camera on the floor and I saw like the top half of the backlot and things like that. And you've got to find these little moments where you can make it something more, but stick to the conventional route in general, but add some flavour to it in some way. Good luck with your short, buddy.
Okay, we'll take one more question. Here at the front.
As a wheelchair user, do you think that the industry is improving for disabled creatives?
Yes, in a short answer. I think over here, definitely. I think I did a documentary a few years, last year actually, in Los Angeles about the lack of disability in film and TV. And I think that production companies are starting to realise now that it's more worth a while to install a ramp than pay for an A-list family to fly around the world first class. It doesn't cost anything. And I think I've just done a talk about disability in TV just before I came here. And I think the ratio of disabled people is like 22% in the UK. Employed on screen is like 8%. We're starting to grow, and I think Ralph and Katie opened some doors. But production companies need to realise that I think people automatically assume that if you employ a disabled person, it's going to cost more. which is complete bollocks. It doesn't. There was a company in America called the Inevitable Foundation who did research. So if you had every single member of the crew had a disability, the whole budget would be 3% more. So production companies are beginning to realise that we see the world differently. We have different skills that we bring to the table. A disabled person will always find the easier way to do things. And companies are starting to realise that. It's starting to get there, but we've got a hell of a lot of work to do.
With your permission, we're going to spike All Creatures Great and Small.
Go for it.
Magnificent though it is, it was a Channel 5 series. Jordan did some great episodes in Series 4, because we're running a bit short of time. But I just wanted to sort of ask just stand back a little bit. Because what's interesting, there's lots that you've talked about that's interesting, but when you sort of list some of the shows that you worked on early in your career, Doctors, Hollyoaks, Casualty, Ackley Bridge, some of those are either shrinking in volume or gone. So does it worry you that some of those places where you got those early breaks, Seamus doesn't exist either, for example, some of those places where you got your early breaks, they don't exist in the same way? And would you have any advice to someone standing in the same shoes you were standing in 10 years ago?
Yeah, it's kind of wildly alarming. I've just noticed this weirdly when I was back at Coronation Street. For me to get into Coronation Street, I'd been in the industry 6-7 years, and I'd had to prove my worth. I mean, it's almost like royalty of television, Coronation Street, or at least it was. And now, when I was there, the amount of trainee directors who had never directed before.
Not anything?
Not
short film?
Yeah, a couple of short films maybe. They'd not done any form of drama or any soap. Were doing a block of Coronation Street, and they hadn't had, because what I admire most of Doctors was it was absolutely mental what we did on a daily basis, but that taught me so much. I learned a lot more doing one block of Coronation Street than I did 3 years, one block of Doctors than I did 3 years at university. Purely the speed you have to work and the techniques you learn. And with almost like ITV flagship shows like Coronation Street are going to lose their prestige. And I'm not saying the bad directors at all, but everyone's got to learn and develop their skills before they kind of get to that level. And it is very worrying. There's maybe Hollyoaks, but again, that's, to me, looking on the outside, that looks like it's beginning to
They've cut the order in half.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be twice a week.
So, yeah, that's rather alarming. So I think advice going forward is, I think going straight in as a director now is getting more and more difficult. And I always say that if I didn't have a disability, I wouldn't be directing where I am now.
Why do you say that?
Because I'd have probably had to work my way up through other departments. I don't think I'd have got the chance or the opportunity. And I think if you're wanting to direct and learn a bit of experience, it's probably not a good idea to go straight in as a director, because it's all right, yeah, you can say, oh, I'm a director, but you don't have the skills. You might fall at the first hurdle, which could have a detrimental effect on your later career. So I'd probably advise that you start in another department as a camera trainee, a sound trainee, then you can watch how you can learn things and develop from there. Then you can have a quick, rapid ascent to direction from there. But it's paramount to spend time on set before you get into it, I think.
That's very good advice. Yeah. Okay, I've got a final question for you, Jordan. You're talking about not always waiting for the phone to ring. Sometimes those breaks will find you. Sometimes jobs will find you. As a director, what can you do, or what are you doing to sort of self-generate? Is that something that you can do, or are you still waiting for the phone to ring?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I annoy people a lot. My ethos is, all they can say is no. I'm always on at my UK agent and US agent saying, what can we do? Is anybody looking at the moment? How can I reach out to them? But I also, what I was kind of saying before, I keep a kind of record of people I meet, and I exchange email and try and reach out all the time saying, I've got this show, just go out. It'd be great if you had a watch of it and see what you think, what you're working on. Can I offer advice? Or if there's a new show coming out, I would say I'd love the chance to do a mood board for you, or cut a trailer and see how I would do it.
And are you putting ideas of your own together?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I think you've got, because I was trying to break into the US a few years ago, but since the decline, there's no space for a job in director now, so I've had to create my own material, one of which was kind of optioned over here a few times, but my American agent has picked it up. So I've been learning as well how to pitch to a US production company, how to get this show made that I've got, and you've got to keep your fingers in a lot of different pies at once. It's an industry that's constantly evolving, and so you've got to keep busy and keep doing different stages.
Keep busy, fingers in lots of pies. Yeah. It's a good point to end it, and we're out of time, I'm afraid. So, thank you for coming. Hope you enjoyed the sessions. Thanks for having us, RTS. And finally, a very big thank you to Jordan Hogg.